Hi, I'm Pastor Rhonda.
And I'm Pastor Seth.
You're listening to Growing Hope,
Living Faith.
Welcome back to Growing Hope, Living Faith. We're hoping that you're having a great week. I am already stumbling over my words. We just got started.
That's right.
I was laughing because in my head because we've been sitting here talking for a long time.
Yeah.
Like a long time.
Yeah. It's been
it's like
45 minutes, almost an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I guess maybe we should record. But yeah, it's good to catch up.
It is.
And it's good to talk about the passage. And yeah, we're
ready to record, I think.
Yeah.
So you've had a busy week. I know you've had a busy week. So you made it to Nashville and back yesterday. You went to Nashville and back. And tell us what you were doing up there.
I went to Trevecca, which was kind of a cool thing. And I was a little intimidated because I'm so old, but I went to a chapel service and I really loved it. I got to witness the young people just worshiping and singing. And then there was a special speaker that Dr. Tim Gaines had, and that was why I was there. I wanted to hear this speaker, and it was really good on mental illness and some of the problems that we don't want to talk about in the church, like depression and anxiety and some of those things that the church kind of just will like push under the table. Because,
and those are very real things.
Yeah, because, we're supposed to be saved and sanctified and we should be happy all the time. But he did make a great connection with happiness and holiness. And I loved what he was talking about medication. He called it like the little means of grace in a pill form. I thought that was awesome. But anyway, I was there for that. And I drove up yesterday morning and drove back home the same day. But it was good.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we've talked about this because this happened last week, I think, right? You have a song on the radio?
Yes. Did we talk about it? Yes.
I can't remember. Did we talk about this last week?
I don't know. If not, we have a song.
Yes.
I have a song on the radio called Back in the Grave, and you can request it. But maybe we did talk about it.
I think maybe we did talk about that. That's my fault. So, it's just week to week. It's actually been a while since we're recording this on a Friday. It's been storming outside. So heard thunder this morning. It's been a long time since I feel like I've heard thunder. And so that's good. And so it has been a busy week. I got to preach on Sunday.
And it was amazing. It was so good. It was so good.
Thank you. And praise the Lord on that. So, so got to do that and fill in and step in. For Pastor Mark, as he was out of town for a funeral. And was able to do that and felt good about that. And then I went flying on Monday night, and it was such a good flight. It was just such a good flight. I took my dad, and we took off from Chattanooga. We went and flew over the Ocoee River, which was awesome. And if you've never kind of driven through there, the Ocoee, it's really, really beautiful. Then we went over and landed at Western Carolina Regional Airport, and we took off from there. And then we flew over, what's it called? Something in the woods.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a place in East Tennessee. Well, it's actually in North Carolina. It's close to Murphy, North Carolina. Yeah. But it's this church, and on the side of the hill, they have these huge 10 Commandments, which we just talked about the 10 Commandments not too long ago. It's all in this white lettering, and they have this huge cross on top of the hill where they have all these flags of nations and stuff, which you can go and pray, and they have just a lot of different exhibits on the ground. But we actually flew over that, and so got to see the huge 10 Commandments and all that kind of fun stuff. And then flew back down the whole Hiawassee, kind of into the Cleveland area, then flew back to Chattanooga. But the weather was perfect. It was supposed to be really windy over in North Carolina when we landed, but it wasn't. It was just calm as could be. So it was a nice, smooth landing, and we took off and then had a nice, smooth landing in Chattanooga as well. So, but it's good. So, so been busy. We also have chickens now at our house.
I love
it. Which is unreal. And so we got some baby chicks. We got 6.
Wow.
Little, they're speckled Sussexes, I think is what they're called. And so...
have your kids named them?
It's hard to name them because you can't differentiate between them. And so, my mom and dad came over the other day to look at the chicks, and they were asking their names, and my kids would pick up one, and they'd be like, this one is so-and-so, and they put that one down and grab another one. This one is so-and-so, and they put that one down, and they pick up that very one they had just laid down. They'd be like, oh, and this one with a totally different name. And so it's hard to keep them differentiated right now.
That is so funny. Can they paint their little toenails, their little claws?
Emery would if she could. She would if she could, but we're trying to create a little bit of responsibility with our kids, which is not always easy. My daughter just loves animals, loves animals. And we're trying to teach to her, like, you can love them too much to where they could die, right? You know, like if you squeeze them too hard, or if you don't take care of them, then you could actually love them to death. And so we're trying to teach some of those lessons. It's going to be really cool because they'll have to water and feed and clean out the cages, or all that. And what's crazy is we got 6 chickens. I don't even have a chicken coop at my house right now. So right now they're in a dog kennel, and which is great.
That is so funny.
It keeps them, and they're just baby chicks. So I figure I've got about 6 weeks to get the coop and the pen and everything ready to rock and roll. So
what do the dogs think?
So I had one dog. It was kind of indifferent. Bear, he's our older dog. I think he's just kind of indifferent. Teddy looked really interested in him, and I don't know if it's a good interested per se of how he looked at them, but they definitely will not be free range. We will have them packed away to where the dogs cannot get to them for sure. Right. So got materials on the way though to be able to make a coop and make a yard for them and all that kind of fun stuff. And so yeah, we're excited about that. And
I'm excited about pound cake.
Yeah, lots of eggs.
Yeah, it takes lots of eggs.
I know my wife was doing some research, and she said the type of chickens that we have, because they could have up to 250 eggs a year per chicken. We got 6, and because we were trying to we should have done research maybe before. We're trying to decide how many we should get. Like originally we were thinking 4, and then we got to the store, and she's like, well, let's just get 6. I'm like, all right, we'll get 6. So we may have a lot of eggs, a whole lot of eggs. And
that's a lot of
if anybody needs eggs, well, hopefully they're going to be happy chickens that lay eggs and all that kind of fun stuff. So
scrambled eggs, boiled eggs.
Yeah, that's right.
Egg Benedict.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're just praying and hoping that we don't have a rooster. They're all supposed to be pullets, which is female hens. Just praying and hoping that we don't get a rooster, because we will not keep a rooster. I cannot handle all of that noise that roosters make. So
yeah, I can't do that either.
But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good. So and speaking of fun and good, it's always good and fun to talk about Scripture.
Yes,
and,
it is.
We're gonna be diving into. This is the 5th Sunday of Lent. So this is the last Sunday before Palm Sunday, which you're going to be preaching Palm Sunday at Dalton First Church of the Nazarene, Lord willing. And so this is kind of the last Sunday before the big celebration, before Good Friday, which is the hard celebration, back to the big celebration of Easter. So
talk to us a little bit about how your Lenten season is going. Like, has Lord been teaching you anything? I know we talked about fasting and replacing and things like that.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun to kind of journey through the Scriptures, but I've also had the privilege of preaching 2 Sundays in the Lenten season, which has always been really, really good. And I just love these passages because once again, it points to the reality of who we're called to be. And even today is really, really, I feel like all of it's going to really come together because we've talked about the law. We've been talking about, the fact of what is the law. Then we hit on, all right, this reality of choice of how are we going to live? What are the choices we're going to make? And so it's really kind of made me take a step back and look at all the choices that I have in life to really begin to evaluate on a big scale, but then also trying to hone into the realization that every day we have these choices that we can make. And so I feel like I've been much more hypersensitive, I think, to some of those things. Doesn't mean I've always necessarily always made the right choice, but really trying to hyper focus on the reality that everything we do every day can be kingdom minded in how we go about it and what we do. And so it should affect, our faith and our walk should affect literally every aspect of our life. And, it's been kind of cool because I'm a big Alabama football fan, and you can hold that against me if you want to. I don't really care. But there's been a huge transition this year because we got a new coach. And so it's been pretty interesting because I've been trying to analyze that from just kind of once again, a high view place as opposed to you can get really caught up in a lot of the emotions of it. But now they're in spring ball, and so and before spring ball they were working out, but now they're going to go into spring ball, and then after spring ball they'll have a little bit of a break, but then they're going to go into the summer, and then summer goes right into the season.
Right. And
to have this end product on the field, once again, it's an everyday thing. It's what you put in your body. It's what you the film you watch. I mean, it's the studying the playbook. It's all of this stuff, and we often enjoy the falls because we get to see the product on the field. But so many times we don't see everything that it took to actually get there, the every step of the way. And I feel like so many times in the faith, we, through the choices that we make, we enjoy the end product. We would love to get to a place where, where everything is good and everything is booming and everything is well, but we don't make those really everyday choices day in and day out to get there. And sometimes, it's easy to look at the law and to look at a lot of those things and say, well, that's what's going to get us there. And so we become hypersensitive and focused on those things. But I think if we've learned anything over this Lenten season, the reality is that's not always the answer. The law is important, but it's not the thing. And so how do we allow the law to breathe into our life, but allow the Spirit to breathe into our life as well, so that each and every day, if we're focusing and pushing towards that reality of kingdom, then we realize that how we push to that, the choices we make right now is going to affect where we're going to get to way down the road. I don't know.
That's
it's kind
good.
of some stuff that I've been thinking about. What about you?
Well, kind of really along the same lines about choices. And I've noticed if I've seen it once, I've seen it 100 times just in my regular Bible reading, along with reading the passages. But just the phrase of he didn't have to just keeps coming back in my mind. And I probably will preach something about that next week. Good. I haven't got it all worked out. But, he made so many choices, so many decisions that he didn't have to do. He shouldn't have to do. And I think that we have to look at some of these decisions as well and choose otherness and choose, what's not in my best interest, but what's in the best interest of others.
Yep.
And those are the choices that we have to make. But I see how he has done that over and over and over from the time he left heaven till, the cross. And he didn't have to, but he did.
It's good. Yeah. And, we make individual choices, but then we also, as a church, make collective choices, and so, like I said, it's been really reinvigorating to try to, like I said, see the big picture, but then to try to just zoom in and have that realization of like how I do my job is a representation of the reality of the love of God that I have. It's you have that big picture, but as you zoom in, it's that realization of, man, each and every decision that I make, it does point to the reality of what I am living for. Right. And I think we've kind of disconnected ourselves from that a little bit as a whole. And like I said, I just feel like all of these passages have really been pointing to this on such a deep level.
Yeah, this one in John.
It does.
Definitely does too.
That's right. And so I think this is, I'm excited to talk about it because, like I said, it's just amazing how that often happens, definitely with lectionary. And I think, I don't think the guys who put the lectionary together hundreds of years ago probably, obviously they were looking for continuity to some degree, but I don't know if they were fully looking for it to be as I don't know how to say the word in continuitous as it is. I don't know if that's a word or not. May have just made up a word. Webster, give me a call and it'd be good. But we're gonna be looking at John, coming from chapter 12, and I'm reading this week, right? And so it's gonna read like this. Let's just jump into it, and like I said, it'll continue on. It says, now among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks, and they came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. And Philip went and told Andrew, and then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. And Jesus answered them, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will my servant be also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor. Now my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, is it for the reason that I have come? No, sorry, I read that wrong. Let's reread that verse. This is verse 27. Now my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it is for this reason that I have come into this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd standing there heard it, and said that it was thunder. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. And Jesus answered, the voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. And he said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die.
Wow. And really that last part goes back to what we talked about last week with the snake and on the pole and
and Jesus being lifted up, right? Like that's going to draw all people to himself. And that's the judgment of the world, right? That was the place where judgment essentially happens and sin is defeated, is in that place. And that's a beautiful, I think, promise and reality. But it starts out with these Greek guys, right? These Greeks, and they're from out of town. So obviously the word of Jesus, word about Jesus has been spreading on a pretty deep level, to where now the foreigners are hearing some of these things that Jesus are doing.
And I love that Philip told Andrew, you know, it's like he got the message, and it's like instead of going straight to Jesus, it's like they go to each other. I can try to imagine what they would say.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? Do we take him to Jesus? Do we just try to talk to him? What do we do?
Yeah. Well, there may have been this reality too of, can we trust them? You know, like what are they here for? Why do they want us about to speak to Jesus? And so, because obviously, and I think this is what, you know, the Chosen does really well, that obviously everybody wasn't necessarily pleased with Jesus, right? And the reality of what he was doing, and what that meant for them, I guess. And so, you know, it's hard to sometimes have that realization, and I couldn't imagine trying to, I guess, be a gatekeeper for Jesus, you know, because I imagine that would have been a very, very tough job.
Right. Well, in verse 24, I love what Jesus, he starts to explain about what's going to happen. And he says, verily, truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. That's not what we want to hear.
No, it's not. That's hard, but there's so much truth in that. We see it in creation.
Right.
And I think that's a really cool thing about creation, is creation shows us the reality of a life of faith, I think, over and over and over and over again. You know, during the winter, you know, fall leading into winter, everything dies, right? And it falls to the ground. And then you come into the springtime, and all of that which died brings forth life.
I was reading this morning about how the seed wasn't just like put in a bag, put on a shelf, you know, like just to stay there, but going into the ground where it's dirty, where you get trampled on, where you get stepped on. Yeah, this was in a plain account. I was like, wow, you know, just that being in the ground is just not pleasant. You know, it's dirty, and it's where you get stepped on or rained hard on, you know.
Yeah.
But that's where it has to go. It can't just go sit on the shelf.
Very, very
good.
good.
To the ground.
Oh, I like that a lot. Good job, whoever wrote that on a plain account.
Yeah.
Not that you're listening to us.
I love a plain account, by the way.
It's very, very good. Yeah, very, very good resource. Yeah.
So
it does take this going, you know, into the earth, this death, but then Jesus kind of turns it and begins to make, obviously, a life lesson out of it.
And that's where we get life. I mean, you have to have real life, you've got to die first.
Yeah, because everybody, I mean, it's about bearing fruit. Everybody wants to bear fruit. Nobody wants to get to a place where it's like, oh, I wish I could just create more fruit, or this is how I create more fruit, or and I love that hardness, and I'm thankful that Jesus doesn't shy away from the hardness, right? That it takes death for fruit to be grown. And it's staring us in the face everywhere that we look, but he doesn't really end there.
And Jesus does not ask us to do what he's not willing to do himself. And, you know, if you look at the next verse, he says, whoever serves me must follow me. Well, he's doing that. So we've got to follow in his footsteps. And he says, and where I am, there will my servant be also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor. So God is going to honor if we do this. But then we see him, like, this is when he's making his choice in verse 27. Now my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? In other words, can you get me out of this? Like, I am backing out because I do not want to go to the cross. But then he says, no, it's for this very reason that I have come to this hour. So, I mean, he's making that hard decision to die, knowing that he's going to be raised to life.
Right. And it's a choice, right? He has this choice that he's going to make. Is he going to pursue the reality of the kingdom and what kingdom is pushing him towards, or is he going to choose not to? And we see that human struggle within him, because nobody wants to do that, right? Nobody wants to do that. And like I said, it's so cool that within those hard times, God seems to step in and continues to, I don't know, he encourages, right? Right. Because this is when the voice from heaven comes, and
can you imagine that?
Yeah, it's
almost like Jesus is talking to them, and they're having this conversation, and all of a sudden it turns to prayer, and it's like those people staying there got in on this conversation between the Father and the Son.
Yeah, absolutely.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and it just is that reaffirmation of Jesus and the fact that God has glorified him. And now Jesus does say, hey, that's for you guys. It really wasn't really for me. Yeah. Like, I know the reality of the goodness of what God has me here for. I know the harshness of it, but I'm going to make that choice to be able to pursue forward. He says, so, that's for your sake. And then essentially it's this turn of, all right, Jesus realizes his time for glorification has come. The Father affirms that reality. Hey, it's time for you to really be glorified. And then it's this turn. It's this judgment now. It's this, hey, this time is here. It is upon us. And it's cool because a lot of Jesus's ministry, hasn't really been willing to step forward. There's been a lot of times where people have wanted to kill him, right. And it hasn't happened. Like, when he was at his hometown, they were ready to throw him off a cliff, and he just kind of walked through the crowd because, it's like, hey, my time hasn't come. But now we really do begin to see this shift that the journey towards Jerusalem is getting ready to happen. And he does make this turn and this twist for this realization of, hey, I'm coming. This is the judgment of the world. It's time for me to be driven out. It's time for me to be lifted up. It's time for me to draw people to me.
Yeah, that part that says, now the ruler of this world will be driven out. I think sometimes we give the evil one so much credit, but I mean, he's defeated. Yep. He is a defeated foe, and Jesus defeated him at the cross. I think that's what he's saying here, where he says, now the ruler of this world will be driven out. Yeah, Jesus is victorious.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah, sin doesn't have to have the final answer. But, we have a choice, right? Like, we have that choice. And it goes back to that verse 25. Those who love their life will lose it. And those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. And so the question is, what are we going to love, right? Like, are we going to love everything that the world has to offer us? Are we going to love wealth and money and power and greed, fame, and all of those things that the world has to offer us? Are those going to be the things that are going to drive the reality of our choices and the circumstances? Are we going to say that, yes, we want to be at a place where we are bearing fruit, where people are coming to know Christ, where people are experiencing Christ through us? Yeah, maybe that's where we desire to be. But as we zoom in and we realize that our choices, the choices that we're making, is it pushing towards that goal? Has it led us to death, to be able to lay those things down? Do we detest those things to the point that we're willing to live the kingdom and to be able to bear that fruit? Because if we want to get to that final place where we feel like God's calling us to be, then the choices we make right here, right now, are going to either help us get there, or they're going to take us in a totally different direction than what God desires for us to be.
And the good news is when we don't make the choices that we should, when we hold on to our lives and we hold on to that world system of I'm first, no one matters but me, when we mess up, when we sin, the Psalm 51 passage tells us what to do, and that's to beg God for mercy, to go to him, say, have mercy on me, oh God, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions.
That's good.
And this whole passage is about, is when David is just owning it. And I think that's what we do, is sometimes we're like, oh, we're not that bad. Yeah. I'm going to hold on to my life a little. I'm going to serve God a little bit. And, we think that we can do a little bit of both. And that's, it's like if you hold on to your life, you're going to lose it. So it's during those times that we're not making the right decisions, we have to get on our knees and beg for mercy.
Yeah.
And God He will forgive us, and He will blot out our transgressions, and He will clean our hearts and put a right spirit. And we've been talking about this verse at church for weeks now. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and sustain in me a willing spirit. And if we don't have that drive to let our lives go, I'm so thankful that He will help us come to a place that we will have a willing spirit.
Absolutely. But we got to ask Him, and He's not going to take us there if we don't want to go there.
Right.
And it's going to be, it's definitely our choice. What do we want to do? And it's not easy. We say this all the time. We realize that this isn't necessarily the most easy thing to do, but it is the most fulfilling way to live life. And as a believer, I'd say really it's the only way to live life, is to live that life of surrender, that I willingly allow this part of life to die so that I can pick up the parts of life that will truly give me life. And it won't just give me life, but it'll give life to people around me.
Right. I'm thinking about a song I wrote, Resurrection Hope, with my friend Chris. Again, you have to die before you can be raised to life.
Yep.
And His life is so abundant and free, and it's so worth it.
Yep, 100%. So may you die.
Thanks.
I don't know if that's a great way to do it.
I think I need to start playing taps or something.
I don't know if that's the best way to end this podcast or not, but that's what we wish for you. That's crazy to say it. But man, may you die to yourself. May you die to your choices, to your desires. May you detest, may you push away from everything that you think this world offers your life. And may you detest it to a place to where you are literally willing to die to yourself so that you can pick up all of those things that God has for you, desires for you, and so that your life can produce so much goodness and fruit, and be that which God desires for you to be. And like I said, I'm thankful we have the example of Psalm 51 that leads us there, but then I'm also thankful for the example of Jesus. Like you said, He did exactly and led by example. He doesn't just stand there and tell you, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to be the king that actually surrenders myself to this as well.
Right. It's amazing. It's a great story. It's a true story.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So good.
All right. Well, we would love to hear from you.
Yep.
And we do have an email address at growinghopelivingfaith@gmail.com.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. It's Growing Hope Living Faith Podcast. And feel free to reach out to us on either one of those locations, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks for listening, and I guess we'll check in with you on next Saturday. It'll be right before Palm Sunday. Wow, right. This is flying.
It's flying by. So, well, we love you all. Pray and hope you have a blessed a blessed rest of your week. Grace and peace. God bless. Bye-bye.